Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I am your expert life strategist, Karena Calhoun. I'm your host here at Go Be Great with Coach Karena. On a previous episode, I actually was going to say the name of our previous show title. So I'm so glad I got it right that time. Wow. So welcome, Mia, to the show. Where in the world are you right now?
Thank you, Karina. I am in Delray Beach, Florida. So that's Southeast Florida.
Awesome. So now tell me, did you have any impact from the storm recently?
Luckily, it missed us, a little power outage, but outside of, unfortunately being in South Florida, I'm originally from New Jersey. So, and then
Okay.
I lived in Boston, Massachusetts for a while. Being down here, I feel like Mother Nature sneezes sometimes and we get a power outage. But, outside of that, we were good. We were very thankful to have it miss us. And obviously sending a lot of love and prayers to anyone who was affected by it.
Absolutely. I just recently did a show with someone who's down in Florida, and she said that they did not get any impact other than a few trees downed and things
Mhm.
like that, but nothing that was substantial in their area, too. And so, as I said, then we do definitely send our prayers regarding those that have been impacted, whether it was heavily or not, but
Yeah.
anyone impacted by the recent storm. And so I'm really happy to hear that all is well with you, Mia. And
Thank
so
you.
I know you said you feel like Mother Nature sneezes and the power is out. So do they not bury the power lines there?
I think they do in some places, but it just happens to
Okay,
be on our street. They
gotcha,
had We had family members that literally live, I don't know, less than a mile away, and they had power. So it just happens to be this nice little
gotcha,
that we're in that just seems to get the brunt of it. And then my parents are, local in Boca Raton, and they were fine. So
gotcha.
we did
Understood.
have a tornado hit, which was pretty wild though, which
Wow.
one actually touched out. Delray's pretty big. So it was more west of us. We're right by kind of the coast. And
Hmm.
yeah, that was bizarre, but luckily that also was not near us.
Wow. I asked about the power lines because the house that my husband and I are currently in, when we bought this house in 2019,
Mhm.
um, we were apparently, it was the owners were deceased and the previous owners were deceased. And so apparently we were the last house to sign the papers to have the power lines buried. And
There you
so
go.
they kind of like converged on us when we got here, and they're like, we need you to sign, we need
Oh
you to
my
sign.
gosh.
And we just kept thinking it can't be that bad. And so that first year, we actually bought the house in April. So then we go through the spring, the summer,
Uh-huh.
and then the winter comes. And oh my goodness, I had
Yeah.
never experienced so many power outages. We could
Yeah.
literally hear the transformer blow down the
Oh
street.
no.
It could be snow, just a drop of snow would fall and the power would go out. I mean,
Yeah.
it was literally sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, the power would go out. And so
Yikes.
they finally got in 2020, they were, in the process of getting all of the lines buried, and so we haven't had that issue since then, but it was
Oh, good.
crazy. So
It's
I
wild.
say anytime they can bury some power lines, please get
Mhm.
it done.
Yes, seriously.
That
Gotta
is
look into that.
crazy. So Mia, tell us how you have been loving on the world recently.
I love that you put it that way. Loving on the
Yes.
world. So I am a mental health therapist. I've been doing this for a while now. It's something I knew I wanted to do. I kind of got right into the work, even while I was in my undergrad program and in my master's program. I kind of dove right in. Haven't looked back since. So that's something I do. And I created this really, I'm a very creative person. So I love traditional, the traditional work, but I also have this creative side I need to attend to. So I do a lot of writing, and I've created this performance program out of that. So through the experiences, I was in a lot of different environments doing that work, right? So compiling all these experiences and these trainings, I kind of picked what really resonated with me in the population I knew I wanted to focus on. I was also a college athlete, so I was a Division I soccer player, and I just saw the need not just for athletes, but again, I was getting this really great content. And what I was finding was you reach a point in therapy, right, where there no longer meets medical necessity and you're kind of asked to just stop the work.
Mm.
You have to kind of wish them the best and let them carry on. And I was like, wait, this is the exciting stuff though. This is where, you can get above and beyond. And, people have these big goals and it's just such a beautiful thing. So I was really set on trying to develop this program where you're not just surviving and getting by, you're really thriving and you're optimizing your mentality so that any barriers that might not be there, any barriers that might be there are no longer there, essentially. So I developed this performance program, my pivotal performance program. I'm a performance consultant. I specialize in working with highly competitive athletes, but I also work with business professionals and honestly everyone in between, because at the end of the day, I believe we're all performing. I think performing is really just the quality in which you show up to things. So it seems very relevant. It's something that is near and dear to me. And I just really love doing that work.
Yeah, one thing that you just said that really stands out to me, the quality in which we show up.
Hmm.
That is absolutely key.
Yeah.
One thing I really I lean into within my coaching is to let folks know that you absolutely have the right, the authority, the you can be authentic in who you are. And so I love that you put it, the quality in which we show up,
Yeah.
and so when you think about everybody thinks about Chick-fil-A and their quality of customer service. I mean,
Hmm.
it's top tier.
It
Everyone
is.
knows that. But then when you think about other service providers or product providers and how they may differ, you just it makes you think about how am I showing up?
Yeah.
You know, what quality am I providing
Yeah.
just in my everyday life? I mean, I think about just even with my husband. How am I showing up to my husband? How am I showing up to my kids?
Exactly.
How am I
Yeah.
showing up to myself?
Right.
Am I dropping the ball in being showing up in a quality way,
Yeah.
even for myself? I love, love, love that. Let's talk about that. So,
Hmm.
how are you really leaning into, and I know you said this is not necessarily just for athletes, but
Right.
listen, entrepreneurs need to hear this.
Hmm.
We need to hear this. I
Yeah.
never want to exclude myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the points you touched on, absolutely. I think that a lot of us, it's tough, right? Because I think a lot of us accept what we have as good enough. And again, there's nothing wrong. I highly reinforce gratitude. I also think we can be gracious and accepting of what we have while still pursuing more. And I remember pretty early on in my career, it was this kind of like assumption that you had to suffer and you had to, you had to struggle and you couldn't have more because that was just the way it was. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that to one extent or another of just, like, I'm getting paid enough, I'm doing fine enough, I like what I'm doing enough, my relationships are fine. And we kind of accept that as okay. And we don't have to. And again, I say it's tough because I don't think we realize it until we're on the other side of it, right? Until we actually pursue that thing or do that thing or ask for that raise or start that own business. And we're like, why the heck didn't I do this before?
Yeah.
So, this foundation of performance is exactly like you said, it's not just getting by. And it's not just in one area of your life, it's in every area of your life. Because whether I'm working with an athlete or a realtor or entrepreneur, or whoever it may be, you don't operate in isolation. So if one part of your life
Mm,
is suffering, it's going to impact everything else that you're doing. Right. And that's
mhm.
why I love that I have this therapy background because I can really incorporate a lot of tools, skills, insights to help people kind of just take inventory non-judgmentally, see what's
Yes.
there, and then where do I kind of expand upon. So to your point of, if I'm showing up for me, I'm also giving that courtesy to everyone else around me in my work. I think a lot of
Mhm.
us feel guilty for extending that kindness to ourselves. And what we
Yeah.
don't realize is by not doing that, we're actually taking away from the people around us, from the opportunities, from our work. Because when we not just fill our cup, right? Or think of fuel, right? The quality of the fuel you're putting in the sports car.
Mhm,
That's going to make it
mhm.
run a heck of a lot differently than just kind of filling it up enough to get to the next place. So
You
it's
came with no games on today. You have come with the fire. Oh my
I'm
goodness. I
trying.
love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I can have this conversation literally all day long.
Oh, you and me
All day
both.
long.
I feel very passionate about this stuff. And yeah, I just love being able to provide this framework. And that's why I love when you say, like, how are you loving on the world? I really do see it as like my love language of like how to give back and support.
And and it's key because one of the things that I talk to folks about is um, I can talk to people. I do a lot of networking. And so I can talk to people and I can discern when, they feel like they're showing up great, they're doing a wonderful job,
Mhm.
but I can sense where things are kind of falling behind the scenes. But
Sure.
people feel like, well, if I really hone in on my business, even though this area of my life is in shambles, then all will be well. But
Mhm.
we really need to understand that they all coexist together.
Oh
So
yeah.
even though you may feel like you're showing up 100% in your business, there are some things that are falling that those of us on the outside can see that you
Mhm.
probably got blinders on and just don't realize it. And so,
Right.
it's really key that if we can really hone in on ourselves. I absolutely love this conversation. Love really hone in on ourselves. And like you said, in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
you may have
key.
made some decisions that do not benefit you today.
Mhm.
You may
Mhm.
have made some decisions that took you down a road that is not good for you today. But
Mhm.
guess what? Let's look at it, why you
Exactly.
made those decisions, and let's forgive you.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got to forgive ourselves for this. I mean, I've made some. I'm 51.
Mhm.
Well, I'll be 51 in a couple of weeks, but
Happy
I've made some.
birthday.
Thank you. I've made some horrendous decisions in my life, and one thing I had to be very conscientious of is, Karena, girl, forgive yourself. You
Exactly.
didn't come with a manual.
No.
You didn't come with a blueprint.
No. Yeah, exactly. And to your point, I think so many of us carry that guilt and that shame, and it's just such a barrier than actually acknowledging, right? Like you just said, we have to acknowledge to be able to push forward and to do differently. So hiding it away isn't going to
Yes.
work, and then harping on it isn't going to work either. So
Mhm.
the acknowledgement, the forgiveness, and then like, how do I show up with this now? That's where we perform. That's where we thrive. That's where we live life to the fullest, I believe.
Oh, I love you. Oh, Mia, I love you. I love
Back
this.
at ya. Yes. No,
Oh
this
my
is a great
goodness.
conversation.
Yes. So when someone wants to connect with you, first tell us how they can
Mhm.
connect with you. And then what do they expect when they connect with you? Is there a consultation?
Mhm.
Is there some type of assessment that you offer? What happens?
Yep. Yeah, so there's a
Without giving
couple
the
ways you
farm away.
right, yeah, there's a couple of ways you can connect with me. Some people aren't sure whether therapy is more fitting or the performance consultation is. So you can always reach out to me. I'm super accessible via email. So if you kind of just reach out and say like, hey, I'd like to schedule. Otherwise, you can find me on Psychology Today, on Alma, a bunch of different platforms where you can kind of schedule yourself in or just put in a formal therapy request. But again, if you're not sure, you can request a complimentary 15-minute consultation, 15, 20 minutes. I'll make sure we have enough time. And we kind of talk about, again, just bringing awareness to what is and really honing it. Like, what would it look like when you know you've accomplished this goal, or what are you hoping for
Mhm.
yourself? And that's where we distinguish one from the other. Now, especially for your listeners, I'm also going to offer the opportunity, if they email me, I'm going to provide my complete performance appraisal. And it's basically like a little quiz questionnaire. And I create it myself. And I feel like even just in answering some of the questions, it brings about a great awareness. And just like, I
Mhm.
didn't even think of that. Or like, this is an aspect of performing. And some of it is more along the obvious lines, like, do you anticipate any tasks or anything
Mhm.
associated with performing? But then based on that, you kind of get these ranges. And we can go from there. That's kind of a great test the waters and see where exactly we're tuning into and how to kind of formulate this program around you. And I use my signature power performance system that I love. So it's kind of formulated, but definitely tailored to the person specifically. And then along with that, again, you'll get this complimentary, that complete performance appraisal, and you're going to get a little tracking card. So it's a performance tracking card. Again, it's not to bring guilt, it's not to bring comparison, it's just to bring awareness of like, what's going on? What are you noticing? How am I attending to this? And then that's obviously a talking point that we can review too, if you're wanting more clarity or support around it.
I love the fact, Mia, that you have this framework. It's already set, but yet it really, I don't want to say morph is the word, but it kind of like fits to the
Yeah.
individual.
Mhm.
That absolutely is key because listen, folks, getting in touch with Mia, you're
Yeah.
not going to get cookie cutter, which
Right. No,
cookie cutter
absolutely
is
not.
on every shelf that you
I
can
don't
find.
do cookie cutter.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I believe that's why a lot of folks are in the situations that they're in
Yeah.
when it relates to trying to get, you know, the healing and get the different things that they need because there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff out here and
Yeah.
it's just not for everyone.
No,
And
it's
so
not.
yeah, so listen folks, I really encourage you to get in touch with me. If you have any type of discernment, you can sense the level of passion, compassion, empathy. You can sense all of this
Thank you.
through even just the airwaves when it comes to me. I mean, I'm just like, I'm ready to lay down on the couch. I'm serious.
Let's do it.
It's just a
Yeah, I
very
appreciate
calming,
that. I
yeah,
appreciate
very
that.
calming feeling of just, and trust. So, just really be able to reach out to her. I am encouraging y'all.
I appreciate it. Sincerely, I really do. Thank you.
Yes. So, how did you get into this arena? I know you said just, you've always had a passion and eye for this, but what really solidified it for you?
Yeah, so it's funny, like you know the term like be who you needed when you were younger. And I
Mhm.
was very blessed. Like I grew up with a lot of love and support, but I also had just kind of these experiences going on that I didn't feel like anyone could relate to. And at a very young age, I grew up in a super small town, the burbs of New Jersey. So it's like, a lot was behind walls and stuff. So it was just something that I always had in my mind. And then, my mom jokes, she's like, the only call home I got from school for you was you breaking up a fight between two sixth grade boys and like who you thought you were. I was younger. She's like, who you thought you were, but like that's always been your MO. And yeah, I think just between like life experiences and just really appreciating being there for friends and other people and not just to again help them get back to a baseline, but to really cheer people on. It just always filled my cup personally. And so while I was an undergrad, I did some mentoring in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So at some inner city schools. And I really loved the work. And it just kind of kept getting reinforced through these different portals, if you will. And like I said, I have that creative side. So it just didn't really stop at the traditional work. I created a blog and kind of just took off from there. I published a children's book and it's just been fun. And through my college athletic experience, like I said, that just really inspired me to hone into the performance piece. And I've just really kind of built that up. And I feel like it's really blossomed, especially recently.
I love it. I love the fact that you've talked about, the traditional piece as well as the creative side because I don't hear that a lot,
Right.
where people talk about that, because just because there's this traditional side does not mean you cannot have a creative side. I
Yeah.
really want to hear a little bit more about the children's book that you created because, at this point in the game, I really believe as many authentic resources as we can get for our
Hmm.
kids,
Hmm.
the better. So I really want to hear about that.
Yeah. So I want to say something else really quick too, because you mentioned something and it just kind of reinforced something for me too. If you are a therapist or you're interested in doing this work, the reality is there's a very high turnover rate. There's a high burnout rate because the nature of the work is really intense. And this was my way of staying, like keeping the flame burning, if you will. So I really encourage you, again, whether you're interested in the work or you're doing the work, you have to find a way to make it work for you too.
Mhm.
You have to have some skin in the game there. So whatever that looks like, whether it's a creative twist or writing or podcasting, or I really do think it's so important. So
Mm.
that's why I love having those outlets. To that point, the children's book, yeah. So I published a children's book years ago now called the Happy Calendar Book. And I was inspired to write this book because at the time I was working with a lot of children that were struggling with anxiety and especially related to school, whether it was the social component or the performance component in getting things right and their participation or whatever else it may be, right? The separation from parents. So I basically kind of created this fun little narrative, little bit of a rhyme scheme, feeling to get my own creative flow that just really talked about how to shift your mindset, right? Giving yourself something to look forward to every day. So that's the Happy Calendar Book. Each day kind of has its own theme, giving yourself something to look forward to. And when I would do like talks on it or present on the book or bring it into the schools, it was kind of like I encourage you guys to follow this, whether you're a teacher or, you know, whether you're a principal or a parent, you can do this. It was all applicable skills without the kids realizing that's what they were getting, if that makes sense.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I love that. So Mia, tell us how we can get in touch with you.
So my website is www.levie.lifestyle.com. My email is mia@levie.life. And you could find me on social media too. I'm trying to remember all my handles. Maybe we can put
Don't
them all
worry
in
about it.
the show notes.
We'll have as much info in the show notes as possible. Clickable
Perfect.
links. We all know how we do, just in case,
Yes.
anyone missed anything. Mia, any last words of wisdom?
Just give yourself permission to pursue what you want. Don't settle. I think and create a solid foundation. Again, if you are attending to yourself, you are just giving everyone else that as well. So don't think it's selfish. Don't think you shouldn't. Or, again, when we're stressed, the first thing to go is our own self-care. You're just doing
Mhm.
yourself and others a disservice. So take time, take inventory, what's working, what isn't. Don't assume it's working just because someone told you it does, or you're comparing yourself to whoever on social media that's doing X, Y, and Z. Just kind of tune into you and what you need and just give yourself permission. It really will change your
Absolutely.
life.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Mia, thank you so very much for stopping by and being on the show, dropping these awesome and amazing gems, jewels, all of this that we absolutely needed to hear on this good day. So,
Absolutely.
folks, I have had Mia on the show today. Thank you so very much for listening, and I will see you all on the flip side. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.